Now that the dust has settled, it's pretty clear what really happened. Another trans shooter, another cover-up, and another excuse from weak politicians. They said it was compassion, but it was really only corruption. And they buried the truth, they protected the ideology, and they left kids in danger. And today, I've got 5 clips that show you exactly how deep this goes. So stay with me. You don't want to miss any of this. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Hit like, subscribe, and let's get into this.
Suicidal transgender who hates Trump's Christians and Jews shoots up kids at a Catholic school, and the media wants to take away your handgun. So how are we supposed to protect ourselves from trans shooters? The media is bad at pattern recognition. We aren't. Just 2 years ago, another trans 20-something walked into a Christian school in Nashville with a rifle and shot 3 kids and 3 adults. They buried the manifesto and locked down the case. We've seen trans shootings in Colorado and in Maryland. They even shot up an ICE facility in Texas. And it seems like half of Antifa's trans. A couple of they-thems just got popped for firebombing Teslas. The mayor of Minneapolis says, you can't say that.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
I don't hate anyone who thinks they're trans. I feel sorry for them. But statistically, the trans population has been prone to violence. That's not villainizing, that's reality.
So looking back, the media told you to shut up. They said, don't notice the pattern. And they buried the manifestos, which I find incredibly ridiculous. As everyday people and as a concealed carrier myself, I think the manifesto is important to read so that we can understand the mental history and the mental effects that are going on. This is a mental health issue, not a gun violence or a gun control issue. It's a mental health issue. And you know, the media screaming compassion is definitely not helping. And in fact, I got to pause here and deviate from the Jesse Waters clip and show you this mental health breakdown that I wasn't planning on showing in this video. I just have to show you. It puts this mental health of the trans situation into context. Take a look.
We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people.
That's enough of that. Now that we've had time to breathe, the truth is obvious. They were fueling the problem. Senator Kavanaugh right here was fueling the problem. By the way, she's a senator from Nebraska, which I find crazy that she was reelected in 2022. I bet she doesn't get reelected after this. But, you know, the media is not fixing it. They wanted you blind. They wanted you silent. They wanted total control of the story. That's why the same headlines read like carbon copies every single time, because they're trying to protect the ideology, not protect kids. And the next clip shows the real danger. How society was tricked into normalizing something that was called a mental illness just a few years ago. And that's what this is.
We love the American people, especially American children. And if they're troubled and believe they're somehow a girl trapped in a boy's body, we want to get them help. We don't want to give them hormones and operate on them. Society shouldn't be trying to produce more trans kids. We shouldn't be encouraging an emotional disorder or whatever this is. And doctors should stop profiting from it. Great Britain ended child sex change surgeries. They said it's barbaric, and they're right. And politicians should stop elevating the trans issue like it's the civil rights struggle of the 21st century. You see it all over Minneapolis.
Minneapolis will continue to be a safe haven for our trans community.
For being a safe haven for transgender individuals.
We have sued them for gender-affirming care. Yes, we are not going to scapegoat our transgender community.
When our children tell us who they are, it is our job as grown-ups to listen and to believe them.
So when your 9-year-old tells you he's a horse, do you let him sleep out in the barn and eat hay? What are we doing here? Just a few years ago, The psychiatric community classified transgenderism as a mental illness. Then doctors went woke and removed it as a condition, and now millions of young Americans are identifying themselves as trans.
So see how fast that shifted? One day it was a mental illness, the next it was a civil rights movement, and that wasn't an accident. That was the plan all along. And now that we can look back and see, we can clearly see what was happening. Doctors and politicians cashing in, while kids are used as pawns. They were sold a lie, they marketed it, and they weaponized it. And they call that progress. No, that's profit. And when you see the speed of this shift, you realize that it was never organic. It was manufactured, packaged, and forced upon Americans. And while families struggled to keep their kids safe, elites laughed all the way to the bank. But it gets worse. The next clip shows how radical this movement isn't about tolerance. It's not, and it never was about tolerance. It's militant. Watch.
He has that right. We're a pretty darn tolerant society. But the left's weaponizing trans kids and turning them into culture warriors. And they've been turned loose against the church, schools, and Trump. You see it, I see it. The trans clan has a militant wing, and it's out for blood. They're taking lives, defiling churches, and freaking everybody out.
So this is the escalation. This was never about equality. It was always about power. It always is about power, whether it's climate change or the trans issue or anything. It's about power. And while they went soft on radicals, they went hard against parents and churches and President Trump. And looking back, the mask is off. They weren't building tolerance. They were building an army. And the language got sharper, the demands got louder, and the punishments for dissent got even harsher. Parents who spoke up were smeared. Churches were targeted, physically, violently. And the president who dared to stand for common sense was treated like the enemy. And that's not tolerance. That's the opposite of it. That's what tyranny is dressed up as in these rainbow flags. Politicians had the chance to protect schools, but they refused. The next clip proves it.
In 2023, private schools in Minnesota begged Governor Walz to fund more school safety. They told him it was an urgent and critical need. Minnesota had an $18 billion budget surplus, but the governor didn't do it. Instead, he turned Minnesota into a trans sanctuary. And his attorney general, Keith Ellison, sued Trump so they can keep castrating little boys. Tim Walz failed. Our leaders keep failing us. They failed us during COVID, on trade, on immigration. They say they care about kids, but they locked them down and oversaw an obesity and chronic disease epidemic. And now there's a growing trans epidemic, and they won't even admit it, just like crime. They created a crisis and then lie about it and blame you for not being compassionate.
And just when you think it couldn't get any worse or grosser, because this whole video is making me feel terrible, the so-called leaders in Minneapolis and Jen Psaki swooped in, and not to protect kids, not to back up parents. No, they had to be there to mock prayer.
Reagan.
Thanks, Carolyn. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
So think about that. Kids were dead, families were grieving, and instead of standing with prayer and faith and being there, for these people, the left mocked it. They protected ideology, not children, and they protected shooters, not schools. And when believers turn to God, they spit in their face. That's not leadership. That's just evil. I don't even know what else it is. It's evil. Time has only proven this point stronger because now that the dust is settled, we see the pattern more clearly than ever. This is not compassion. It's corruption. They want power. They want obedience, and they'll trample faith to get it. But time has also proven something else. They can't stop prayer. They can't stop faith. And they sure as heck can't stop a movement of Americans who are wide awake and standing with President Trump to take this country back. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and I'll see you next time.